Hello, I'm Cheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One to One. For 24 years, it was an entrenched part of our popular culture, at least for those who lived in 9 states in the Northeast. A brilliant marketing campaign to promote the sale of Rheingold beer, which was made in Brooklyn, the Miss Rheingold contest drew in millions of Americans who avidly followed the 6 annual finalists, voted and campaigned for their favorites, placed bets on who would win, lusted after the contestants, and dreamed about being one. In some years, more people cast votes for Miss Rheingold than voted in the presidential election. Why did the contest engage so many Americans? What did it say about the cultural mores of the time? And how have those mores changed? Ann Newman was a Miss Rheingold finalist in 1960, and her just-completed documentary, Beauty and the Beer, explores these issues, as well as revealing what the contest meant to her and to the other women who took part in it. Welcome.
Thank you, Cheryl.
So why a documentary about the Miss Rheingold contest?
Well, I think it was something I had forgotten about, that was part of my past, that was unearthed by an article in the Daily News that reminded me that contest had existed for so long and that I'd been part of it. And I thought it needed to be remembered, and not just for me, but perhaps for a larger audience.
So the contest ran from 1941 to 64.
Mm-hmm.
Who came up with the idea, and how did the contest work?
Right. Well, there were 48 breweries in Brooklyn at one time.
48?
48. And the Liebman Brewery was one of those. It was originally the Liebman Brewery and it became the Rheingold Brewery. They changed the name eventually. But it came about sort of accidentally by a printing process. The president of Rheingold was asked to view a new printing process for their advertising. And in that photograph, there was a picture of Jinx Falkenberg, who was an actress and an athlete at that time. And he said, I love the printing process, but who's that girl? Let's use her in advertising. And they used Jinx Falkenberg that year in their advertising, and the salesman loved the idea of having a fresh-faced girl next door advertise beer. So the next year, Mr. Liebman presented a slate of models to his sales force, and they chose the next Miss Rheingold.
Okay.
And that expanded to the idea that, well, let's have everyone vote.
Right.
So
right.
Then there were big pictures of the finalists, and they were in breweries, in bars, saloons, hardware stores, grocery stores.
Billboards?
Billboards, everywhere, these huge pictures of 6 girls dressed alike with their white gloves and very prim dresses.
And anyone could vote?
Anyone could vote. Children could vote.
Okay.
And you could have your choice of one of those women. And many people voted more than once. It was, you vote early and often.
Okay. It was interesting when I was watching the film, if you saw the men who were choosing the finalists.
Right.
I mean, and they were all men, all middle-aged white men.
Yes,
it was just
that's
very,
true. That's true.
very interesting. You know, I mean, there are no beauty contests today that don't have some women as judges, but at that time, it was all white men.
Many white men, I think that's true. And I think, you know, people didn't drink at home the way we do, perhaps have a cocktail hour at home or serve drinks at dinner. In those days, in the 50s and even late 40s, people stopped on their way home at their local bar, and there were so many bars.
Right.
Almost one per block, I was told. That they would stop there on their way home, not drink at home, which is something I hadn't thought of. But it was part of the culture at that time.
Okay. And it's probably a largely male culture as well.
Largely, although I did hear that the Rheingold executives realized that the women in the suburbs particularly shopped. They were the ones who were buying Rheingold at their grocery stores. So they tried to engage the housewife, and besides the men in bars, they didn't want it to be thought of as just something that you had to drink
Okay.
to vote.
Okay.
So that you could do it in grocery stores, and I think they expanded that.
And the contestants were chosen. You had to have been represented by a modeling agency?
Yes, you had to be a quote, registered model.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So someone in the film referred to the contest as an iconic part of American history. Do you agree? And if so, why?
I do agree, because it seemed, I think Wally Lamb, the novelist who I interview in the film, he's a great collector of Miss Rheingold memorabilia. And he describes how he first got interested when he was a 7-year-old boy and had gone to the movie, which was Pinocchio, where the fairy is dressed in a beautiful blue dress, and he comes out of the movie theater with his sisters and sees Miss Rheingold candidates in their convertibles, in their blue dresses. So that all became part of his fascination with Miss Rheingold. But he talks about this contest as being at the intersection of democracy and sex. This is the end of the war. People were so proud of America. They wanted democracy to thrive. And there was something about the voting process, I think, and I have heard that from so many.
That everybody got to
Everyone got to vote,
participate in
regardless of your age or your economic status. Or I would think more white people voted, especially men. I think you're right about that. And I think later we can talk about the demise of the contest. I think it had a great deal to do with the fact that it was a totally white-oriented contest. There were never any Latina girls or African-American girls, or Asian. They were always white, rather Irish girls, I think.
Were there even any Jewish girls?
Not that I know of.
Okay, okay.
I think there might have been some Jewish girls. Actually, in my year, 1960, there was a contestant named Judy Turner. And I believe one day we were all talking about ourselves, really telling the truth. And she said, my name is really Judy Turetsky. So possibly she was.
A few slipped in.
A few slipped in, yes, good, yes.
Okay. But then, that was the way everything was at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, there were no Black or Latino Miss America contestants until probably the 60s.
Yeah.
There were no Black or Latino or Latinos or Asians on television, except for maybe Sammy Davis Jr. and Harry Belafonte, or in the movies.
Right.
So it was pretty much, Black people, Latinos weren't invented until, the 60s.
We didn't know they were here.
Right. Right. There were even New Yorker contests about the Miss Rheingold contest.
Mm-hmm. There were New Yorker cartoons. The cartoons in the New Yorker were every year. There are some very famous cartoons with it. They said there would be a campaign for the senator, and right next to the senator would be the campaign for Miss Rheingold.
Right.
And the line for Miss Rheingold would be very long, and the line
for the senator would be shorter.
Exactly.
You talk about the image, there was supposed to be the girl next door type.
Yeah.
So what was the girl next door?
And depending on your neighborhood, I guess. It was certainly a white suburban next door.
And probably the girl you hope lived next door. She probably didn't, but you hope a girl like that would live next door.
I guess so. She was supposed to be a virginal, outdoor, fresh-faced girl. Sexuality was not part of her, makeup. She had athletic, and I think that was designed for young girls.
Okay.
The idea that Miss Rheingold could do so many things.
Right.
She could shoot bow and arrow. She could go in a canoe. She could play an accordion. She could do it all.
And of course, this image did not comport with the reality.
Not at all.
Of the women's
There's
lives.
no such thing. I mean, it's an advertising model that unfortunately I think we still suffer from.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were dressed with very high neck, long sleeve clothes. Now the girls are undressed.
Half naked.
But women are still being used in advertising in the same way that we were used, only the image is a little different.
It's still it appeals to sexuality, but except the
Yes.
the amount of clothing is a bit
It is,
different.
but you know, think about it. The advertising now with the sexuality is still not caught up with the culture. We're not seeing transgender ads. We're not seeing even gay women in advertising on television, finally, but not in advertising.
So you were a finalist in 1960. You were already, were you modeling at the time?
I was modeling part-time when I was in college. I'm from California originally. And so I was making money as modeling when I was in college. And I heard about the audition where we were going to get a lunch.
And what was the audition like?
There were many girls there.
Were you flown into New York, or did
No,
it
it
happen
was
out
in
there?
California. There was a time when the brewery was trying to expand to the West Coast. And during those 4 years, or maybe even 3 years, they selected some girls from California and flew them in to the East Coast. And that was, luckily, one of those years was my year.
And what was the audition, what was the screening process like?
Basically, they looked at our pictures. They spoke to us about our interests and what we wanted to do when we grew up. And of course, we all lied and said we wanted to be social workers and do good works.
Okay,
None
like
of us-
I remember all the Miss Americas wanted to work with handicapped. Remember when they all wanted to work with handicapped
Exactly,
children?
yes. That's what you were supposed to say. You were not supposed to say, I want to marry someone with lots of money and stay home, which in that era, in the 50s.
A lot of women did.
They used to talk about going to college to get your MRS degree. Do you remember
Right,
that?
right.
So it was still unusual for women to have a career in the 50s.
Mm-hmm. So they went through your pictures and they interviewed you,
Yes.
and then
They gave you a little card at the end. There would be a line of judges, celebrities, and people from the brewery, and perhaps their PR company, who would decide if you would come back for the callback. And you got a card at the end of this line that was either pink or blue, and then they had a callback the next day or 2 days later. Again, they gave you lunch, so you had an incentive. And finally, they would get down to about 20 women, and 5 of us from California were flown to New York, and then we participated in the final callback, which was at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Again, there were many judges, celebrity judges, and brewery judges. And then they sent private detectives to our hometown and our schools and found out if we were okay.
Okay,
That
and
was
then
it.
they picked 6.
They picked 6.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. Then I'll be back with more with Ann Newman right after this message. Welcome back to One to One. I'm Cheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York, and I'm speaking with Ann Newman, creator of the documentary Beauty and the Beer, a cultural history of the Miss Rheingold contest. So were there prizes that went along with the title? I mean, did Miss Rheingold or the finalists win any money?
We did. My year, the finalists were all given $25,000, which was a minor fortune in that era. And Miss Rheingold was given $50,000 to reign for her year. And for that, she belonged to Rheingold, and every single day she went to picnics, to sales meetings, to community events, fashion shows, and every month there was a different billboard and poster and ad.
In a different outfit,
In
probably.
a different outfit, you know, the Halloween outfit, the Christmas, it wasn't Hanukkah, it was Christmas. So every month there was Miss Rheingold in her different outfit, telling you to buy Rheingold beer.
The competition, before you get to Miss Rheingold, when you have 6 contestants,
Yes.
was it were you guys really competitive with each other? Was it a kind of mean girl kind of thing, or how did that go?
In my memory, absolutely not. It was more like a girls' club. We stayed together at a hotel, so we all stayed in a suite.
And this was over a 2-month period, the voting, right?
Period. And every day we would get up and travel somewhere in our little dresses in a separate car, two women per car. We had a driver. It was a convertible, so that the top would go down when we were in parades and so on. And it was so much fun. For at least my year, I have heard there were years when things could get really mean and competitive.
But that wasn't your experience.
It wasn't my experience at all.
How did being a finalist or being Miss Rheingold affect the women's lives? I mean,
for most of us, most of the women, it was a stepping stone to a better modeling career, an acting career. Many of the women went on to more modeling, more acting. That was really the goal, I think.
Okay.
For most of the women who were in the contest.
Okay, and maybe finding a wealthy husband?
Oh, yes, definitely. The MRS degree, that was the other thing. And most of the women did, in fact, marry up, as they used
Now, did
to
it
say.
help your career, your modeling career? Or?
You know, it did help mine. So there were women who got kind of branded as the beauty queen. For some reason, I escaped that. Maybe I looked different when I started my modeling career. My hairdo was different. I did try and change my image a little bit. And I stayed in New York. Eileen Ford took me on at her agency. And I worked and did many commercials and print. And then I went back to California and did television and film work.
When you interviewed a number of these contestants and actual Miss Rheingolds many years later,
yes.
How did they feel about having been a part of the contest?
Most of them didn't want to admit to me. I felt it was difficult for some of the Miss Rheingolds to say, I regret it. I should have done, I should have done something else. So most of them were happy that they had been part of it, and it had led to a better career for them and a husband, of course. Many of them used that as a way to attract a man. It was the days of the trophy wife. So
now there are still beauty contests. Miss America continues, although
yes.
it's not as big as it used to be.
Thank goodness.
The Miss. Why do you say that?
Because I think really, do we really want to be judged by our looks? We don't. Women, we should be beyond that, and yet I feel like advertising still emphasizes.
Oh, absolutely.
Beauty.
Now you also have the Miss Universe pageant, and obviously many local beauty pageants.
Right.
Do you think the pageants that exist today, are they similar or different from? How are they similar or different from Miss Rheingold?
Well, again, the idea of voting, maybe it's more like American Idol. I mean that Miss
public.
Yes, Miss Rheingold might have been a precursor to the reality shows, where still the public likes to vote, and that's part of America. We want to have a say in who is the best singer and who is the best looking girl. So I think it's still part of us.
Do you think the virginal thing is still a part of these pageants? I mean, for certain, in terms of the image they're trying to promote, or is that gone with the wind?
I think the Miss Universe contest I still think they want that girl to be unmarried and available for fantasizing.
Right.
Actually, there were Miss Rheingolds who were married. But
really?
Yes, there were.
Okay.
I mean, it was never publicized that they were married, but it didn't keep you from being in the contest.
Okay. So Brooklyn, as you said at one time, was the home of how many breweries?
48.
48. No more. I mean, those.
Yeah, they're gone.
What happened? And what happened to Rheingold?
Rheingold was, I think, what happened to Rheingold was some bad, not the contest itself.
Management?
Bad decisions about expansion. The idea of going to California. I remember this huge billboard that said, Rheingold is coming. And everybody was, what is Rheingold and who is it? And, you know, there was no relationship on the West Coast to the brand. And I think that expansion, they bought 2 breweries in California, and they spent more money than they should have. And they spent a lot of money on this contest. It was very expensive. Mm-hmm. So I think there were some bad decisions. And then there were more brands of beer. I mean, Rheingold was a local.
And there was another big Brooklyn brand.
Schaefer's.
Schaefer, right.
But basically, you know, all beers were regional at one point. There were no real national brands. And I think when that became more a national brand, that the smaller breweries, local breweries, just couldn't compete. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Prohibition, you know, affected many of the early breweries.
Right.
Went out of business during Prohibition. Rheingold survived by making near beer, which I guess was a legal way of having something that tasted like beer but not that much alcohol.
Not that
none.
much kick, right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
What did you learn from making the documentary that surprised you or that you didn't know before?
I think looking at the 50s in a different way than I had when I was living it, looking back at it, realizing how we glamorized the suburbs and having your own home and having the boy and the girl, this kind of mythical idea of an idealistic American life. Mm-hmm. Hadn't realized it when I was living it, but looking back at it, it was so unrealistic, and it excluded so many people.
Mm-hmm. Was being a participant and being a finalist a more positive than negative? I gather it was a more positive than negative experience for you.
It was. It really was. My consciousness was so limited. That's the other thing. When I look back at this, the idea that there were no black women, there were no Latinas or Asian women, and never occurred to me that that was unfair or why not. But of course, that was one of the other reasons for the demise of the contest. Could not survive the 60s.
So are you in touch with, I mean, were there lasting friendships that grew out of participating in the contest?
And some people more than others, you know, keep in touch.
Sort of like going to a women's college, as I did.
That's exactly right.
So, when and where will the documentary be shown or featured? You
know, their documentaries, luckily, are having more success than they used to. We're hoping to have a screening at the Brooklyn Museum in the fall. I don't have a date, unfortunately, but if people want to see the documentary, they can go online to a Vimeo website, which I think you'll provide for them.
Okay.
And they can see the documentary. It's 75 minutes long.
How long were you working on it?
4 years.
Was it fun?
It was fun.
Okay.
It was fun.
Well, I certainly learned, you know, I grew up in Alabama and didn't learn anything about the Miss Rheingold contest until I guess it would have been after I moved north. So I know a lot more about it now. And it's really quite fascinating, the part that it played in history.
Thank you, Cheryl.
We're out of time. I want to thank Ann Newman, creator of Beauty and the Beer, a documentary about the history of the Miss Rheingold contest. You can read more about the contest at MissRheingold.com. For the City University of New York and 1 to 1, I'm Cheryl McCarthy. If there are any people you'd like to hear from or topics you'd like us to explore, please let us know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.